You guys ready with your V-Pets? As you can tell, I sure am. I even got the Kenji Watanabe edition with the Metal Greymon version, and with Omnimon Ultra S making a comeback, let's go ahead and talk about the DM trait overall, how to build it, and everything you need to know. EX9 brought in a ton of Digimon cards with the DM trait, which comes with all sorts of different colors. Normally in the Digimon card game, you can only Digivolve on top of the same color through your level 2s, 3s, 4s, and so on. But thanks to the alternative Digivolution requirements, any DM trait Digimon can Digivolve on top of each other without necessarily having the same color. The cool thing is that the design of these cards are meant to represent the V-Pets that we're used to with their different color borders as well. And that is how the different versions of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are distinguished with each other. Aside from that, many of the DM trait Digimon also have the new keyword known as training, which is a mechanic that allows you to stack the top card of your deck or from your hand as the face down bottom Digivolution source of your Digimon. And don't worry, I also cover everything you need to know, including the rules of how this feature works in the combos later on. My best suggestion for beginners is to pick one specific version that you want to focus on first, and that will come from your Digi-Egg. If you choose to focus on version number 1, try to include as many cards that are also version 1 trait within the card pool to build your deck. Afterwards, you can fill in the rest with other version trait cards as secondary support. Other than the new DM trait based to play Omnimon Ultra S, I also played tested with different iterations such as the Adventure Core that utilizes the starter decks, as well as the traditional Black Ping Pong DNA style from EX4. And if you guys want to see a full deck list for both these other different versions, consider joining the AVAULT Club, and I really appreciate the support. As for the Omnimon Ultra S DM build, I'm mainly focusing on the version 1 trait Digimon and have version 2 as the supplement. And with that, let's begin with the Digi-Egg cards, which I'm playing 4 copies of Koromon, which is intended to help us reduce our Digivolution costs as we go into a version 1 trait Digimon while attacking. For rookies, running 4 copies of the version 1 Agumon, which is our main searcher of the deck, grabbing anything that is DM trait that we need, and also tucking in a version 1 card underneath it as a face down source. Its inherent effect provides us extra DP, so we can swing over things and make sure we have a massive body. As for the secondary searcher, I'm running 4 copies of Gabumon, grabbing also a DM trait, but then tucking a version 2 underneath face down underneath sources afterwards. In Heritable, we get jamming so that we can safely swing into the opponent's security. Since the deck focuses a lot of early attacking combos, I also want to increase the amount of jamming, which is why I'm also running 4 copies of Betamon. And the whole idea is to try to add as many face down sources as much as you can so that you can gain extra benefits and bonuses when it comes to all the other effects later on as we move on and talk about the level 4s with the 4 copies of Greymon. Itself also has training, and when you attack by tucking in extra face down sources from the top of your deck, you get to gain extra 1000 DP that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. Its inherent effect is just like Agumon, extra 2000 DP during your own turn. As for the rest of the level 4s, you can toolbox a little bit when I'm playing 2 copies of Erdramon, which gives us DP reduction and barrier. I'm also playing 2 copies of Devimon, which gives us a little bit of removal by adding more sources, as well as retaliation. And then to round off for the rest of the level 4s, running 2 copies of Numemon, which has the unique effect of end of turn, allowing us to cycle back 3 version 1 trait Digimon cards from our trash and tucking it underneath face down, so then we can then Digivolve into a level 5 version trait from hand or trash for free. Other than that, its inherent effect provides us blockers, so a little bit of defense too. Level 5s, you definitely want to run 4 copies of Omnimon because when you play or Digivolve into this guy, you get to search for the top 3 cards of your deck, allowing you to play any DM trait Digimon regardless of its version that is play cost 4 or less. But the cool thing is that for every face down source that Omnimon has, you get to increase the play cost of that Digimon by 1, meaning the more you rack up with training in the early stages, you can play higher level Digimon. As a matter of fact, even your Megas, which is going to be Blitz Greymon and Kresgurumon, which are only 7 costs as long as you have 3 sources underneath Omnimon that is face down. This helps you instantly turbo into your DNA combos or play out another level 5 that you can utilize very easily, and itself also has collision, which makes it pretty good at removing smaller bodies at the early stages of the game. And with its inherent effect, you get to de-Digivolve your opponent's Digimon while you're attacking. I'm also running 2 copies of Metal Omnimon, which has a lot of different ways to get into it. First, you can Digivolve on top of any DM trait for 3 costs, or you can actually Digivolve it on top of Omnimon specifically for 1 cost. If you ever choose to hard play it, you can also reduce its play cost by trashing a Cyborg or version 2 trait card from your hand. When you play or Digivolve into this guy, you can trash sources away from your opponent's Digimon and even bottom deck a Digimon with no sources afterwards. And with its inherent effect, it allows you to unsuspend any one of your Digimon as well. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Metal Greymon, which helps delete the opponent's Digimon with total DP worth of up to 5,000, and for every face down card that you have within its sources, you get to increase it by another 2,000, which you can massively remove wide boards or remove 1 big body. Just like Metal Omnimon, you can also reduce its play cost by trashing a card that's Cyborg or version 1 trait to reduce it by 2. It also provides security attack +1, which gives you the extra damage that you need when you climb up into your further stack. And I also tacked in one copy of Squirrel Greymon just to help us recruit any resources that we want back from the trash, and as well as float any level 4 bodies back when it's deleted. That's it for level 5s. Now let's talk about level 6s. There are 3 copies of Blitz Greymon, which can blast Digivolve or regular Digivolve on top of any DM trait Digimon. When you get into this guy, you can Digivolve 3 on one of your opponent's Digimon. Itself has blocker and alliance, giving you defense and offense at the same time. It also has an end of turn effect that lets you DNA 2 of your Digimon into Alter S and make an attack right after. And with its inherited effect, giving security attack +1 gives your Alter S the extra damage that you need to win games faster. And then for its partner, I'm also running 3 copies of Crest Gurumon, which can also blast or regular Digivolve on top of any DM trait Digimon. When you get into this guy, you can bottom deck one of your opponent's Digimon that's level 5 or lower. Just like Blitz Greymon, you have alliance and blocker. Its DNA effect is different to Blitz Greymon, whereas it's all turns when any of your level 6 Digimon will leave the battle area. 2 of your Digimon can Digivolve into a Alter S in your hand so that you can dodge the removal effects. And with its inherent effect, it prevents your Omnimon Alter S from having its attacks redirected. That's it for level 6s. Now let's talk about level 7s. Of course, Omnimon Alter S is the main level 7 to be playing, and I'm running 3 copies of this guy. You can Digivolve on top of any level 6 that's blue or red regularly for 5 costs, or even any DM trait Digimon, but ideally you want to DNA Digivolve into this guy with a blue and a red Digimon, which is going to be your Crest Guru and your Blitz Grey. When you DNA Digivolve, Alter S is immune to all your opponent's effects, including Digimon, security options, and Tamers for the turn. Keep in mind there's an errata on this card because in the English version it was written as it was immune to Digimon effects, but on clarification, with the errata of the card, you're actually supposed to be immune to all effects, which I'll include a link in the description box down below that you can check out with the errata of this particular card. That makes it way stronger than it currently is, and afterwards you can also delete all your opponent's Digimon with the highest level on the board. When you get into Alter S, you want to try to make an attack as soon as you can, because after the attack, you get to place it to the top of the security and then play out both Blitz Greymon and Crest Gurumon underneath it so that you can utilize the on-places effect and disrupt the opponent's board even further, or even at times you can re-DNA into another Alter S that you have in the hand and do the same thing all over again. That's it for Digimon. Now let's talk about Tamers. I'm running 4 copies of the new Analog Youth, which is intended to help us rack up more sources face down underneath our Digimon, and at the starter main, as long as we're doing that, we can suspend it to gain memory and also draw additional cards as long as we have 7 or fewer. Keep in mind, you can also use a secondary effect whenever you have other effects that touch sources in the middle of the main phase too. Then I'm running 2 copies of Analog Man, which is our main memory setter, and whenever we play out anything that is 7 costs or higher within the archetype, we get to spend this guy to draw a card, gain a memory, and add another face down source from our hand at the bottom of the Digivolution cards. This works exceptionally well whenever we play out our Omnimon or even any of our level 6 aces, so we can get a little bit value back so that we're not giving the opponent too much memory to work with. And then to round for the rest of the deck with options, I'm running 4 copies of Meat, which can ignore its color requirements as long as there is a DM trait Digimon in the field, which includes both in the battle and breeding area. And then that helps us cycle, and setting up as soon as possible, it allows us to reduce our Digivolution costs as we climb up. Its security effect does exactly the same thing, so it's nice when you can set up additional copies on the board whenever the opponent chips into us. This time I don't have any tech choices or other cards to suggest, which I normally do, but if you guys have any cool ideas or spices, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Combos and how to play the Omnimon Alter S DM trait deck. Starting with your mulligan hand, you want to find your training rookies such as Betamon. If not, you want to see your Agumon, Gabumon, Analog Youth, and Meat, which are sort of like your turbo and ramping up cards. Agu and Gabu to search, Meat to draw, Delay to help you reduce your Digivolution costs, Analog Youth to help you cycle, and then you want to Digivolve into your level 4s that have training, and then you want to go into Omnimon, which helps you play out your Digimon from the top of your deck for free. And ideally, if you can get lucky, you can play out your level 6s, and then Digivolve into whether Blitz Greymon or Crest Gurumon, and have them both established on the board to DNA into Omnimon Alter S. Once you get into the top end, that's how you control the board and keep beating down your opponent's security with Alliance and Security Attack +1, dealing a lot of damage, and that's how you win games with this particular deck. So rather than jumping straight into a combo, I want to show you guys the new training keyword and how the mechanics work and everything you need to know about it. Let's use this Betamon for example, which has that keyword. At any time during your main phase, you can suspend this Digimon and then place the top card of your deck face down right underneath it as a Digivolution source. The nice thing is that you can also use this effect in the breeding area specifically mentioned in its effect text. Now you, as the player and the owner of this Betamon, are actually allowed to look at your face-down Digivolution cards at any given time during the course of the game, but your opponent on the other side is not able to. This can give you vital information into knowing what cards were stacked underneath so that you can play around ratios or probabilities. Your first question might be, what's the point by having face-down Digivolution cards? The answer is that many of the DM trait Digimon amplify their effects even further by having additional face-down cards in their sources. Let's take this Greymon for example, that it gains extra 1000 DP for every face-down Digivolution cards as it attacks. Let's say we Digivolve into Greymon here for 2 memory and passing a turn. Because Betamon was suspended to begin with, it is also going to Digivolve as being suspended. And keep in mind, this is what we can't repeat to use a training again. We always have to make sure to suspend in order to use training. Another benefit by having face-down Digivolution cards is mainly with the Digi-Egg cards that you guys can see. This Digimon with face-down Digivolution cards when attacking can Digivolve into a version 1 from your hand by reducing cost by 1. One of the key concepts with training is that you can keep repeating this effect over and over, turn after turn, until you're ready to go. Such as this Greymon for example, the more face-down cards that you have that you're training, eventually when you push out and go for the attack, where you get to place the top card of your deck face down as well, which is the same thing as training while it attacks, you get to gain additional 1k buff for every source underneath, and since you have 4, it's going to gain 4k buff lasting until the end of opponent's turn. Another greater benefit, like I mentioned earlier, is to have Omnimon, because this is your main go-to level 5. As you Digivolve into it, you get to play a 4 cost or lower DM trait from the top of your deck. Now the biggest gain is that you can increase the play cost of the Digimon that can play out by 1 for every face down source that it has. And since it has 4 face down sources, that means you get to increase the play cost by 4, bumping up all the way up to 8, where you can potentially play out another level 5 or even some of the level 6s in this deck. Another few important rules to keep in mind when it comes to face down sources is that they're not treated to have any color nor any inherit effects, even if the card does, like this Airdramon for example. The problem is because this is a private knowledge card and it's not public, so none of these inherent effects will be applicable. If a Digimon with face down sources ever gets deleted or removed from the battle area in general, everything underneath the sources go together along with it, just like regular Digivolution cards. There are some cases where you might have a Digimon that is level 3 or above that has a face down source. In this case, let's just say what happens if the Digimon gets de-Digivolved by 1 by the opponent's effect. So Omnimon is de-Digivolved by 1, sending it to trash, and then it's left with a face down card. The face down card right here of the sources will also be trashed together. That's pretty much the basics that you need to know of how the training keyword works and face down Digivolution sources. I will leave a link in the description box down below with another video from the official Bandai card game that you can watch to learn more about this mechanic. So let's show you guys some of the plays that you can make with the new training keyword during the course of the game. Just like before, let's start with this Betamon, and let's just say you have your memory at 1. I'm going to suspend the Betamon to use training, always making sure to check the top card what it is by yourself, so that you know what card it is, and then let's just finish the turn by Digivolving into Greymon for 2 cost. Assuming the opponent puts us back to 1 memory, this is where we get to unsuspend, draw for turn, and get to choose if we want to do training again. The nice thing with Greymon is that its when attacking effect is almost just like training at the same time. So here I'm just going to push this out, and by having Betamon with jamming, I can actually go ahead and attack with Greymon first, and then use its when attacking effect to place a card face down, once again checking what it is, for ourselves, not showing the opponent, and with that it gets to gain extra 1k for every face down source. In this case, it's going to gain 2k. Before we go for the security check, we also have our Koromon egg to resolve, which we can Digivolve into a version 1 from our hand, which is going to be Omnimon, reducing the cost by 1, so it'll be for 2. Draw for Digivolving, and then this is where we get to use this when Digivolving effect to search the top 3 cards of our deck and play anything out that is 4 costs or less. But for every face down card that we have underneath it, we can then play out an increased cost by 1. So since there's 2, we can play a play cost 6 or less. In this case, let's play this Airdramon, and we get to bottom deck the rest. Afterwards, if the opponent has a unsuspended Digimon on the board, Collision is going to kick in with Omnimon's effect, forcing them to block, and then they battle. Omnimon is going to be battling for at least 11k here with the 2k buff, plus the 2k inheritable against the opponent's Digimon so you can remove it. Otherwise, you go into the opponent's security with 1 check jamming. By establishing Omnimon here and early in the board, if the opponent tries to attack you in the following turn, this is where you can go for any of your Blitzgray or Kresgurumon Ace cards and Digivolve and blast into it for free and counter against them. With Kresgurumon, you can bottom deck a level 5 or lower, or you can go into Blitzgraymon to de-Digivolve them, and if Omnimon was unsuspended to begin with, you get to Digivolve into these guys unsuspended as well, and if the opponent was attacking, you can also further block an attack. For this combo, I'm going to show you guys how you can climb all the way up to your level 6s, which are going to be your Kresgurumon and Blitzgraymon, which you want to establish both of them so I can DNA to go into Omnimon Ultra S and deal massive damage or even finish the opponents off with it. We're going to have both Analog Youth and Analog Man set up with the board, as well as the meat delay ready to go. In the breeding area, we want to have a level 4 with at least one face down card. In this case, we're going to have Greymon, which we're ready to push out. We're going to start our turn at 3 memory thanks to Analog Man, and with the starter main of Analog Youth, we're going to place a card from our hand face down, which we don't need, underneath it. We want to make sure that we reach 3 face down sources as we go into Omnimon later on. Since we place a card underneath, we can suspend Analog Youth to gain a memory and draw a card if we have 7 or fewer. Next, I'm going to use the meat delay to place another card from my hand face down. So now I can Digivolve the Greymon into a level 5, reducing the cost by 2 by only paying 1. Draw for Digivolving and then search the top 3 cards of the deck with Omnimon, and because you have 3 sources underneath, this allows you to play a Digimon with 7 costs or less. And the ideal targets to play out are actually going to be your Blitz Greymon and Kresgurumon because they're only 7 costs, and these are the moments where you can gamble and go for high roll plays, which are absolutely crazy. By playing one or the other out, you want to make sure that you have the other DNA target in your hand to begin with so that you can Digivolve it on top of Omnimon. First, we're going to resolve Kresgurumon's on play effect to bomb deck the opponent's level 5. If not, if we play out this Greymon, we can de-Digivolve 3 on the opponent's Digimon. Since we play out a DM trait Digimon with 7 costs or higher, this is where we can suspend Analog Man to gain another memory, draw a card, and also tuck a card from our hand face down if we wish to do so. Although it might not be super necessary here, just because we're going to go for our DNA plays. But let's just say we do anyways. I'm going to then Digivolve into Blitz Greymon for 3 costs. With that, we can de-Digivolve 3 on the opponent's Digimon, we can Alliance swing at the opponent's security for 2 checks at 24k, 26k in total, and de-Digivolve 1 on the opponent's Digimon as we're attacking. After dealing the 2 checks, we're going to DNA both of these guys together into Omnimon Ultra S. Omnimon Ultra S is going to gain full immunity for this turn, and then this is where we can swing again because we DNA Digivolve, everything resets, all the inheritables get to refresh over again, and with Omnimon we can de-Digivolve 1 once more, and then swing for 2 checks into the opponent's security. This is going to be 17k with jamming as well. At the end of the attack, place the Omnimon to the top of our security, which is optional, but by doing so, we can play out the Kresgurumon and the Blitz Greymon back out, and because those cards were played, all the sources underneath will be trashed. But this is where we get to utilize the on-play effects all over again, de-Digivolve 3, and then bomb deck a level 5, and by having this, if we have a second Omnimon Ultra S, we can DNA once again, repeating the combo over and over again, swing for another 2 checks if the opponent had 4 security to begin with at the beginning of this turn. This is a game finishing move already. If not, at the end of attack, hide in security to recover, play them 2 back out, and then if you have another one, you can repeat the same once more and finish the game off. The Mega Machine Playmat and Sleeves are live on the AVAULT store, so make sure to grab yours right now. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, whatever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.